Prime News on HLN. New leads in the disappearance of little Kyron Horman. Reports just in that the 7-year-old boy's stepmom is taking now a second polygraph. Oregon police say tips are pouring in from flyers handed out to students and parents at Skyline Elementary. It's the place where little Kyron was last seen. This again just over a couple of weeks ago. Now cops focusing in on the last one to see him, his stepmom, Terry. And for the first time, we're hearing from Kyron's mother, biological mom, writing a letter to her son. We'll go over that as well. As always, we take your calls, comments, questions, 1-877-TELL-HLN's the number. Back with us, our criminal profiler, Pat Brown, author of the book, The Profiler. Also back with us, HLN law enforcement analyst Mike Brooks. All right, Mike, this questionnaire, I'm looking at it here. It shows a picture of Kyron, the one we've seen of him in the classroom. Right. Picture of a white Ford F-250, similar to the one owned by Terry Horman. A couple of pictures of her as well. Key question here, when, to adults and kids, when did you see Kyron? Who was he with? Did you see Terry Horman? What do you make of this questionnaire and how it's generating new leads? I think what they're trying to do, Mike, they're trying to take these statements, anybody that saw them, and then what Terry Horman has told them as her timeline during that day, and trying to add it all up, say, okay, who exactly were the last ones to see them together in the school? Because we know that at least 2 people had seen, saw little Kyron in the school before he just disappeared. Because remember, they were having a science fair going on that day, so there were more people in the school, parents, relatives, possibly total strangers coming in and out of that school that they don't normally have on a regular basis. Pat, what are you seeing here? Are you starting with stepmom and working out?
Well, you know, it's really interesting. I think Mike Brooks can maybe comment on this as well. Can't even remember a time when I've seen a police department come forth with a picture of the parent and their vehicle, unless they have some really, really good reason to be looking at them, because usually they just don't do that. So my guess is that her stories must have been incredibly inconsistent, so the big red flags went up. Perhaps she was saying this is where she was all day long, but her cell phone records were saying that is not exactly true. So, I mean, there would be really no reason. In that short period of time, she's not going to forget where she was at. So if she's not telling the truth, that's got to throw up that red flag to say, why in the world would she be lying about this? So I think she's the #1 person of interest, or they wouldn't have put that flyer out.
Right, and speaking of that, and we're not sure the results, but we now know Terry Horman has taken a second polygraph. Mike, what does that tell you? You know, Mike, that tells me that either they got new information, new leads that they wanted to ask her about, or maybe the first time they came out as deceptive or maybe inconclusive, as some polygraph tests do. Or there could be the possibility, Mike, that sometimes if you give someone a polygraph and they are extremely upset and very emotional, you might get false readings on that also. But it's, but a second polygraph, it's very interesting. You know, speaking of emotions, the one who's been the most emotional is Kyron's biological mom, Desiree Young. Here's part of the letter that she wrote to Kyron, and she writes, "I am so sorry that this has happened. I am sorry that I was not there to protect you. I will never be able to forgive myself for being so many hours away when you needed me the most." Pat, as you watch this, do you watch the emotions of family members, and what does that tell you?
Well, you do watch it. I mean, everybody does act differently when a child disappears, so we have to look actually into their past behaviors. If they're a really stoic person and always been a stoic person, they may behave in a fashion that we think is unemotional. If they've always been a very emotional person and then they suddenly act totally unemotional, you have to wonder what's that big change of behavior. And so, yes, we would look at that. Especially when the child's gone missing, we would expect the family to be extraordinarily upset, that they'd be looking for him, that the emotions would be everywhere. And I think that one of those big things that really put that red flag up with the stepmother was that comment on Facebook, hitting the gym. And I think that threw everybody, because maybe, 3 or 4 weeks later, you just try to keep yourself going. But wow, that's, right away, this is just something you're not thinking about. You're thinking about finding that child and saving that child's life.
No, well put. And now she has not been named a person of interest. We want to say that. And another thing, just to reiterate, she's been with Kyron since he was an infant in his life and caring for him. So it's not a new situation. A lot of things still so baffling here. Pat, Mike, we'll keep following it. Thank you guys so much. And we have this coming up.